Hello, howdy, and welcome to another Sourdough Saturday. I'm Catherine, the Aerogarden homesteader. So, this is a new to me recipe. I have been searching around for a sourdough sandwich loaf. So the bread that I made before is basically a plain sourdough bread that you generally would turn into a boule, except I don't like boules, so I normally just make it in a bread pan. This one is actually it's supposed to be a soft bread that you can use to make sandwiches with. Versus the other one, it's got a bit more of a bite to it, like a chew, and it also has, holes in it that you could lose your filling through. So I want something with a bit of a finer crumb, a softer chew, or texture. It's not chew, but just a softer overall feel. So this is supposed to make 2 loaves. I do not have 2 loaf pans. So I will be making 1 loaf, and the rest of this will actually go into making like a dinner roll. I'll just put it in a pan and roll it up into balls. My kids will like that. Okay, so I need 835 grams of all-purpose flour. There we go, 835. Let's get this in here. I will be using the mixer today. What's that? Pull up my recipe again. I really should print this out, but I don't have a good printer. Okay, I need water. Okay, so I have my levain. I made this last night. I probably made this around 6 o'clock, and it's 8 o'clock this morning, so that's what, 14 hours-ish. I changed it up a little bit. It called for 8 grams of starter, and I didn't feel like that was going to be enough starter, because I know my kitchen's cold, so I actually put in a lot more than 8 grams of starter. I think I put in 36 grams of starter with 75 grams of flour, 75 grams of water. So it's a 1-to-1, I think it's a 2 to 1-to-1. So this will go in. Now the amount I put in worked for me because I knew how my starter was. And this did double. It did double in the 14 hours. So it was a good amount. Okay, so next I need whole milk. So I don't have whole milk. So I'm going to use 1% milk, but I'm going to put in a little bit of this yogurt that is actually made from whole milk. So it's going to affect the water content just a little, but hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay, my phone keeps going to sleep. Okay, I need 184 grams of whole milk. Okay, let's go with 189. And I'll be putting in just a smidge bit more butter than it calls for to also help enrich the 1% butter I'm using. So that, then I need 401 grams. So whoever did this recipe has got some really weird measurements. So let's go 401. Like, why couldn't they do 185 grams of milk and 400 grams of water? Let me guess, that's not going to be enough. Yeah. There we go, 401. 15 grams of sea salt. There we go. And 58 grams of honey. This ought to be fun. Oh, so close. There we go. Okay, now I measured that into the water just so I could dissolve it a little bit and make sure it didn't stick to my bowl or anything. Okay, that is it for the scale. Pull this closer. I don't know if you can see. I might have to move you around so you can see inside. But I'm going to get this in. Okay. So that's all what it looks like. I'm going to get this all mixed up. So it's about, let me see if I can move you a little closer. About 2 to 3 minutes on a low speed. just to get it mixed, and then it'll be about 7 or 8 minutes on a higher speed to knead it. So I'll probably turn it off for this. It's going to get kind of noisy. Okay, so it's been about 2 to 3 minutes, and as you can see, it's pretty sticky. It's also breaking apart. There's just no gluten structure to it whatsoever. So that was just the 2 to 3 minutes on low speed, which on mine is just number 1. I'm going to bump it up to 2 or 3, and I'm going to let that go for about 7 to 8 minutes, just so that I can start developing the gluten. And then I will add in butter. So I will get that all going. So we want to develop a little bit of gluten before we add the butter in, because the butter will break the gluten strands. It's not that it breaks it, it's like it's almost like it prevents them from forming. So we want to form a good gluten structure before we go and put the butter in. Okay, I have scraped down the sides, so I will get this going again on a higher speed to let it knead. The dough did not seem to be coming together, so I decided to add some flour while it was kneading, and this is me showing you the flour additions. I probably added about a half a cup because it just was not coming together. And now you can see it's starting to come together, it's starting to clean up a little bit and ball up more. Okay. It is starting to clean the sides of the bowl. You can see it's got more strength to it now. It's a little less sticky. I did end up going through and scraping the sides of the bowl just to help it clean the sides, because it just seemed like the stuff on the sides was just stuck there. So, and then I let it knead a little bit longer. So it probably went a little longer just because I had to put in the flour additions. I wanted to make sure those got kneaded in well. But cleaning the side of the bowl, it is kind of working its way up the shaft a little bit, which is gumming up some of the threads up here. So that's going to be fun to clean. So at this point, butter. Need to add the butter, but I want to add it. Of course I didn't cut this ahead of time, but need to add this like 1 pat at a time and kind of give it a chance to work itself in before adding the next pat. So this is going to be noisy. I'll probably speed this up, but I'll just add the pats as it's going, and you can watch me do that and see it all break apart. It will break apart, and then it'll start coming back together again. So don't worry. Right, get a knife. Let's okay, I'm going to scrape it all down, make sure everything is off the edges and that the butter has been incorporated, because sometimes it sticks to the outside. And then I need to give this a little bit more kneading time. I don't know how much more, I'll have to look at my notes. But definitely needed to give it a little bit more just so that the butter can be fully incorporated. So I think I got that all scraped down. There we go. Give that just a little bit longer. Alright, I'm pretty sure everything's incorporated at this point, so I'm going to get this all scraped out and into a, I don't know if you can see that, but it's a lightly greased bowl. Oh, I think there's a gob of butter on the side. Might need to let this go a little longer. There might be a gob of butter up here. There we go. Get this out. If you have a bowl scraper, now's a good time to use it. Mine's just in the other cupboard. I didn't get it out. We're making do, because that's what we do. Okay, this will require stretching and folding. I believe it's 3 of them, but I'm not 100% sure. I will be back for all of them to show you, so you can see how the dough progresses. Oh, I hate it when it gets up into the threads. This gear mechanism up here. Okay. Ooh, 2 loaves worth of dough is definitely a lot heavier than 1 loaf. That's for sure. Okay. Ooh, that smells buttery. Okay, well I have high hopes for this dough. It smells good. Okay, so get that covered, and then every half hour, here, let me see what the recipe says. Okay, 3 stretches and folds, and then there will be a bulk fermentation for a total of 4 hours. Okay, So that is what we will be doing for the next little bit. And I will see you at the first stretch and fold. And in case you didn't know this, get your stuff soaking or rinsed immediately. Dried on flour dough mixture it's just hard to get off later. So do yourself a favor. Rinse it right away or soak it right away. Did the same thing with my sourdough, the levain container, so it would also be easier to clean later. Okay, time for stretch and fold number 1. Let's see how this dough is doing. Ooh, that is going to be a soft dough. There you go. This is the second stretch and fold. Okay, last one. I'll let that go for another 2.5 hours. I will just leave it alone and we'll see what happens. It has been just over 4 hours and it's looking pretty good. I got some bubbles. You can see it's starting to dome up a little bit, so hopefully it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Let's get this out. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of flour down just to prevent sticking. Okay, now let's get this out. There you go. Okay. To divide this in half, let's see what we got. Okay, I'm going to divide it into about 1,000 gram pieces. One's 9 something and the other one's 1,000 something, so I'm going to take the bigger of the two and I'm going to make bread with it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pre-shape it a little bit, just to get some of this air out, work it a little bit. Now by working it, it will cause it to tighten up a little bit, but what I'll do is I'll let it sit and rest for a few minutes while I work on the other piece, and that will give it a chance to relax. There. Got this one. Get more flour. I have my greased pan ready to go. I have a lined cookie sheet ready to go. So I'm going to get shaping. Like I said, this will be for dinner rolls. I'm probably going to make, I don't know, it'd be nice to make 12 of them, but they might be kind of small if I make 12. So maybe I'll be making 9. It's about 100 gram pieces each. Okay, so my 9 pieces. That's a mess. Okay. Now, in case you were wondering, if you don't have sourdough and you want to follow along, you could probably use a poolish to get this going. So just follow the poolish method. So you would take for this recipe it called for 75 grams of water and flour, and then you would just add the however many pinches of yeast it would take for you to double overnight. So I think for my kitchen's a bit cold, so sometimes it takes, 2 big pinches to get it to go. So judge that by your kitchen. You could always let it go a little longer, so basically start it earlier in the afternoon. So I don't want to have too much flour down on my surface because then it causes the rolls to slide. But this is slightly sticky dough, so I do want to have a little bit down so I can get it started. Okay, there we go. Those are the rolls, all nice and tidy. So what I'll do is I will cover it with saran wrap So I'll make sure the saran wrap is greased so they don't stick, and then I will let it go for probably about 2.5 hours. I'd like to get this in time for dinner. And then I will probably put this in after that. Alright, so let's get this shaped up. I'm just going to shape it into a bit of a rough rectangle. And then roll it in. You want to press it down, roll, press, roll, press, roll, press. There we go. The tighter you can get it, the better. And then just want to tuck the ends under. And then sort of seal it all together. Alright, pan. See if I can show you what the bottom looks like. See how by pulling it like that, it seals it up. Okay, this will get covered with some greased saran wrap as well. That way I can make it more airtight than that fake saran wrap I had last time, which did a poor job. And I will bring you back when it is time to put these in the oven, so you can take a look at them before and then after. So it'll be about 2.5 to 3 hours. So it's been 3 hours, and while it looks like the dough has relaxed a little bit, I don't see much going on in the rising department. I'm not holding out much hope for these right now. Maybe they'll do fine in the oven, but yeah. Those are the rolls. Here. And the loaf, which I have covered with a damp cloth here, has not really risen much. I might actually just proof this in the fridge overnight and give it a little extra time in the morning, depending on how much it's risen, but better come through in the taste department, that's all I'm saying. I think next time, if I do this again, you know, because it tastes good, I might do a stronger levain. So, we'll see. Time will tell. Not too impressed with it. It just didn't rise. It was pretty flat. It even wasn't that great tasting. So, I think it's kind of back to square one for finding a nice sandwich bread recipe. So, I'll chalk this one up to, this might end up in the bin. We'll see. I could probably turn it into breadcrumbs and use it for something else. I'm still waiting on the loaf, so it might redeem itself. I will see how the loaf bakes up, but that definitely needs a lot more rise time. So, after more than 24 hours, I finally got some rise. So I'm going to bake it off and see how it does. So after 24 hours of proofing to get to this point, I'm not 100% sure this recipe is the one for me. I think it needs some modifications to work with my particular sourdough strength, which apparently isn't as strong as this recipe's strength. So back to the drawing board for a sandwich loaf. It might be worth taking this recipe and seeing if I can use it to modify my recipe and go from there, because I know my recipe works. This does have a nice tight crumb. Did get a little overproofed on the top there, but has a nice tight crumb, has a lovely light sourdough flavor. It has a good taste, so there are elements to it that are really nice, but I think for me I need a different recipe. This one just took way too long for my conditions, my kitchen. So back to the drawing board. But I hope you found this video useful. I hope you like and share so other people can also find this. Not every recipe turns out the first try, and this just goes to show that, I mean, I should not have had to proof this for, it was actually more than 24 hours, honestly. So, it just happens. Not everything will work the way it does in everyone else's kitchen. So keep that in mind when you try my recipes, and keep that in mind when you try other people's recipes. So, I hope you're subscribed, and I will see you next time on the Aerogarden Homestead.